let's hit tactics and let's start with what has actually changed in social media in the past 12 to 18 months that most people haven't caught yet.
I think the majority of things have changed. I think the way that people are consuming content is radically different. I think, you and I have been in the game for a very long time, and the majority of the time we've been in this, it's been, I follow a creator that I really like. And so I consume their content because I hit follow and it shows up in my feed. And you've talked about this a lot recently. I think there was a video you guys just uploaded the other day where you're talking about Gary's been changing how he refers to it from social media to interest media. And I think that is the biggest change that has occurred. And I think a lot of people don't realize that subscribers matter, followers matter. Anybody who's going out there and saying otherwise, they're just trying to get your clicks. It does matter, but it is not the crucial element for success. Before, when we were coming up, I remember the Sean Fink's YouTube channel, like it took a while to get a hit in the beginning. And now it's like, you could have a hit at any point. And so I think the emphasis on your pre-production needs to change because it's far less, it's not gone, but it's far less just about the individual creator and how you communicate, but it's also your ideas and thoughts that you're communicating. And so your idea, in my opinion, becomes far more important in a world where it is serving, or social platforms are serving interest-based content, not follow-based content.
Can you give an example of people are watching this happen in their feeds, but what does that mean and how is that showing up tangibly with these vertical videos or even long form videos that are showing up? Why is that happening?
It's just showing up because you are watching more of that content. So anybody who complains about their feed, for example, the reason why your feed is the way it is because you're engaging with that content. For all of us who are constantly seeing the pandas and gorillas vlogging in our feed right now, it's because we're engaging with that content. And so I think it's a very simple thing. Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all these platforms, their main goal is to keep you on the platform. And so what they realized is, if I just serve all kinds of content from all kinds of creators around this one or two interests that they have, they will stay far longer than if we base it just on what they've subscribed to or follow. Because I don't know if you remember this, but and I haven't actually encountered this on the feed in a long time. It used to be that you would scroll and you get to a point where it was like, all right, you're all cut up.
Yeah.
There's nothing more.
Yeah.
I haven't had that in a while.
Yeah, it's not possible anymore. There's endless content and endless interest loop. Okay, so when it comes to this term best practice, what's funny is if anyone's been creating content for a while, they maybe have some tattoos in their mind of what the best practices are. Sometimes these things can be huge myths that either never worked or are now outdated. One of those myths on YouTube is you need to rename the actual video file that you upload with the keywords
I forgot about that one.
that would re-emphasize your title to help your video rank. And maybe a decade ago, it was a metadata signal back to YouTube. But that is such an outdated and untrue myth. I'm curious, what's a best practice that you hear people keep parroting around that's just not true anymore?
There's a lot of them. And something that kind of just immediately sparked in my head when you said this is the moment that people are saying it's a best practice, it's probably too late.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the moment that everyone's like, this is a really good investment. Then it's probably no longer a good investment.
Yeah.
When everybody knew that beachfront property in California was very valuable, it was too late. And so I think, first of all, if you're hearing that, it means that you probably have a small window where you can take advantage of that. But what we're talking about is tactics. And I think those are really important, but those are constantly evolving, and I don't believe those are the biggest levers for your growth. I think what we have right now is a shitload of creators that are giving all of these little hacks, and they're these tiny little things that you're doing that will not move the needle the way you actually want. I think what people don't realize is the brands that really pop in the education space specifically, they don't pop because of their titles, their thumbnails, their hooks. They pop because they have a fundamentally different worldview on their industry than any of their counterparts. And that's why their content works. Their content will work. It's why they even pop early on before they have a team that's packaging their content well. Because it's not about the little tactics. Those are great. Those are awesome. And if you're not very interesting, that's where you got to start. But very quickly, you need to figure out, what do you believe differently than most people, right? Like Gary, we both came up learning from here. And he came onto the scene in a world where the majority of companies, and this is shocking for the majority of people listening because they don't remember this, Fortune 500s and 100s were spending all their money on TV, newspaper, and billboards. Mailers, not social media at all. And he came onto the scene and was like, hey, there's this crazy thing called Facebook. I think it's going to be a big deal. And he was right. But the reason why he blew up wasn't because of the way he was packaging his content where it's hooks. It was because of his fundamentally different worldview than everybody else. And then he optimized from there.
What's a concrete example in the present world of a brand or a personal brand whose worldview is really cutting through the noise?
Another great example is Cody Sanchez. So around 2020, we were at the peak. Really, I would say 2018. We were at the peak of the only way you get rich is by being a founder of a tech company. That was it.
Yeah.
Everyone was like, I got the Uber of blank, the Facebook of whatever, right? Like the Airbnb of such and such. And Cody came onto the scene and was like, hey, there's actually this like crazy thing. You could become rich being a plumber.
Boring businesses.
Exactly. Wildly different than what everybody else in the market was saying. And it wasn't, I really do not believe it was her videos in general. It was the videos wrapping over and over and over this fundamentally different worldview.
Yeah.
This was a recent like unlock for me that I had, and it sounds so obvious, but I've been doing this for almost 17 years now, and it just hit me the other day because I was looking at our clients, the clients that are getting the best results, and the clients that are getting good results, but not as good as I would like. And I realized the ones that aren't getting as good of results, it's not that they're not doing the right things, it's that we haven't identified what the worldview is that is different than their peers. That is what we're cutting. Everything else, like, I am not the most articulate person. I am definitely not the best looking person. That is not anything, right? We are not titling and packaging our YouTube content with traditional best practices. We're actually going the exact opposite. We're not doing the game of having, I put out a 6-hour 22-minute free course on YouTube. All my YouTube buddies are like, that's 13 minutes, right? We're doing everything contrary. The reason why I think it's resonating is because I'm coming out of the scene in a world where the majority of people in my space are saying one thing. I'm saying something fundamentally different.
Yeah, so the power of having a little contrary approach. A couple challenges.
Introduction.
Because Cody has this worldview. But what would you say to the person who does say, well, I don't have the looks or I don't have the vibe? Because you look at someone like Cody and people make the excuse, you go, okay, attractive woman, good communicator, well dressed, well packaged. That's an advantage.
I think what I would, I'll share, I'm not a right philosophy person, everybody should take my question. But my philosophy in life is, I think this sounds really good, because I have a lot of disagreements. A lot of people probably see it differently, but I
Right, the
I'm not a
conclusion.
measure, I don't know, but I can make some assumptions.
So then you've got a vibe though. You've got your own thing. It's you actually you have a standout look. Like there, and
Right,
that's
the
kind of
conclusion.
you have a standout look. Is that helpful in personal branding? What would you say? There's somebody listening to this right now. They work at Microsoft. They wear a blue button up dress shirt every single day, and that's just kind of the attire. And they're like, all right, I am Mr. Average. How do they personal brand?
I bet that Mr. Average or Miss Average has some secret obsessions that they're just insecure about bringing to light. For whatever reason, we can go into this another day. Probably my insecurities I bring out on the passion. And so, like, I don't hide the fact that I'm obsessed with Harley Davidsons.
Dishes just aren't getting clean.
Problem is, machine. It's a light ear detergent. I recommend switching to Cascade Platinum Plus. These pods dissolve completely and have gone breaking down up to 400% of tough stuck-on foods. Cascade Platinum Plus.
Joel likes cream Oreo too.
It releases trapped hairs for a closer shape.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
As a director of finance, I'm managing 15 and 20 contracts a month. With Acrobat AI Assistant, I can summarize long contracts and identify key terms instantly. AI Assistant helps me compare two different versions of the same document for key changes. It makes me feel very confident that nothing's missing and everything's accurate. With AI Assistant, we're able to focus on what really matters. Growing our business and finding new ways to reach soccer fans.
Need corrections? Check out this chewable mint.
You know you don't have to come all the way to the pharmacy to get a switch, right? There's a more of an option.
What is it?
Here, this is all these online things before my phone.
Oh, yes.
So that's the reasons why my husband was prescribed this dual action. 1, trouble getting an erection. The night kept ending before it had even begun. 2, trouble keeping an erection. Even when he was able to get an erection, he struggled to keep it up. 3, privacy. He didn't want to go to an awkward in-person doctor visit to get help. I, 34 female, have been married to my husband for 6 years. Recently, he started losing interest in sex. I tried everything. Maybe he's just anxious.
First of all, this is way more common than you think. Well, she's blaming herself, right? But maybe her man is having some performance anxiety.
Good point.
A lot of men are actually struggling with ED, premature climax, stuff like that. But good news is that it's treatable. Have you heard of HIMS?
Oh my god, actually, okay, great stuff. My boyfriend just got a prescription to hard mints. It has the same active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis. It's been a game changer.
One, they look. Does that turn some people off? Hell yeah, it does. How much I talk about it. Yeah, metal turns people off for sure. Like, I would argue the things that I'm really into are actually pretty polarizing for the average individual.
Yeah.
I think the unique part is the combination of them within one character. So I think for people listening, a big thing is like, what are the things, like metal has nothing to do with content strategy or brand. I'm not intentionally, to your point of where I think you're going, like, I'm not intentionally crafting some image that I think is going to be better for, I'm just authentically me. And so, Gary, same way. In a world where all businessmen and businesswomen publicly would wear suits, comes out with a fucking hoodie and a beanie legit, right?
Yeah.
And I would actually argue if you're going into business content right now, a way to stand out is to dress up.
Just dress
Because
in
a lot
a
of people followed Gary and wanted to look casual and stuff.
Yeah.
But I think the principle here is it doesn't matter what the look is as long as it is such a great reflection of who you are. And the more that you bring that out visually, the easier it is for the audience to identify things that they can either connect with or not connect with.
That's strong. I think we'll come back to some of those personal branding tips. But if a business owner came to you today and said, I want to grow my brand online, what would you tell them? What would you not tell them anymore?
That you 100% should make content. I don't believe anymore that everybody should make content. I've gotten the opportunity over the last couple of years to meet with a lot of business owners that have grown very successful businesses, and they've never made a social media account in their life.
Totally.
And I think that's great. I think something that that Gary asked me when I kind of was deciding whether or not I was going to start making content, and I'm unbelievably blessed to be able to like occasionally ask him these questions. And his response was so weird to me. I did not see it coming. He basically said like, make sure this is what you actually want. And that this lines up with like the life that you want, the business that you want, all of that. And I was like, oh my God, from the man that tells everybody, man.
You just thought he'd be like, bro, you go all in, man. Post it, you know. But that was not his response.
Yeah. And I think it caused me to sit back and go like, oh yeah, there are ways that I could build out my consulting firm the way that I want to and never make content. But for me, what I decided is that the impact that I wanted to have for people that I know will never work with us would then not be there. And that's something that I've had ambitions around for a while now. And so I think that's why I chose it. But that would probably be the thing, is I would sit down with the business owner and really find out, why are you doing this? What is the goal?
What are a couple questions you would ask? So someone's listening to this, because people listening to this are already creating content. They want to learn your tips and frameworks. We're going to get to those. Others are on the fence. They've been listening to the Think Media podcast. Maybe they're new here, and they're trying to explore if they want to start. So this is a great question. And what is interesting is, I'm curious, you're really saying that like out of that exploration, it could be a very interesting conclusion. It's like canceled plans. Like all of a sudden you're like, oh great, I don't gotta go to that anymore. And you might actually end up going down the road of a different approach, or maybe a different approach even to what creating content means. So what is just like a couple framework questions to try to tap into that self-awareness?
Everyone should start with the brand journey framework. If you're about to make content or considering it, you should do this. If you're already making content, you should do this so you have more clarity moving forward. It's 4 very simple questions. Do not let the simplicity make you ignore the other. First question starts at the end. What do I want to have happen? What's my goal? Right? And with the context that you're giving me here, I would add a little caveat to that. So it's, what do I want to have happen? And do I need to make content in order for that to occur? The second question, though, that I like to walk people through is, once we know what we want to have happen, what would we have to be known for in order for that to happen? Okay? And then the third question is, in order to be known for something, we got to do. So what do I have to do in order to be known for that thing? That's 3 of them, but that doesn't take us to today. The fourth question brings us to today, which is, in order to do the things, to be known for the thing, to get the outcome I want, what do I need to learn, right? If it's building a business, for example,